Board of Family and Children's Services is very proud to be the sponsor and co-sponsor, along with Calvary Hospital, of today's program. I'm going to introduce each speaker individually. They will do their presentation, and then there will be a combined Q&A at the end. So that'll be the format we'll follow for today. I'd first like to introduce Rabbi Simcha Lefkowitz. Rabbi Lefkowitz received his rabbinic ordination from Beis Medrash Gavoa of Lakewood, which included a minor in educational psychology. Educational pedagogy. Rabbi Lefkowitz was then the Associate Dean of the Los Angeles Kollel from 1974 to 1981. He came to New York to be Associate Dean and Chief Administrative Officer of Yeshivas Toras Chaim, an educational institute with over 1,000 students. And under his watch, the school more than doubled in size. He was responsible for all fundraising, and of particular note, he oversaw the design and construction of a $7 million plus early childhood center. At present, Rabbi Lefkowitz is the chief rabbi at Congregation Anshe Chesed, a large congregation in Hewlett, New York, serving almost 200 members. He is also departmental chaplain for the Nassau County Police Department. In 1984, Rabbi Lefkowitz co-founded Labor and Industry for Education Incorporated, which spells out LIFE, a not-for-profit, full-service social service agency which runs many programs for the people of New York City and Nassau County. Rabbi Lefkowitz, who is now, since 2004, the executive director of LIFE, is responsible for all the day-to-day operations of the organization, the administrative components, as well as having primary responsibility for all financial aspects and safeguards. Rabbi Lefkowitz also serves as executive director of LIFE's Early Learn program in Brooklyn, New York, including a universal pre-K. So with that, I'd like you to welcome Rabbi Lefkowitz.
Take him from the back. Put the loose leaf on them.
Good morning. I want to thank you for inviting me here to address you this morning. A special thank you to Bethel Schoenfeld, who coordinated and facilitated my being here. I'm honored to have been asked to present my personal thoughts on Bikur cholim and on the topic when the healer needs healing. As human beings, we are all created by God. We're created for a purpose, and that purpose is to be a messenger and an emissary of God on this world. We, every one of us here today, Jewish, non-Jewish, religious or non-religious, are a messenger of God on this world. We're all on a mission. We, all of us today, have chosen as one of our missions in life, Bikur cholim. And in Jewish philosophy and in Jewish law, Bikur cholim, caring for the needs of the ill, is amongst the highest forms of service that a human being can do. I commend you all for taking upon yourselves the mission of Bikur cholim and making it a priority. You are all heroes. I hope and pray that my words today will give you an insight into the important work that we do. The topic is when the healer needs healing. And I'm very uncomfortable with the term healer. I'm not a healer. And in truth, the only healer is God. And that is the first thing that a person has to learn when tragedy or trauma strikes. Our society has ingrained us with a very strong belief and trust in the medical system. We have elevated the importance of doctors and specialists to such a point that it often subsumes and replaces our belief in God. When a doctor tells a patient, you will not get better, or when a doctor tells a patient you have 6 years to live, 6 months to live, all hope is erased, and the willingness to live and fight is destroyed. With one sentence, the patient becomes a passive, hopeless person. Even worse than that is the loss of faith in the future, his future, for without the concept of faith and the hope in the future, a person begins to decline and decay. I had the good fortune to have been struck by a disease that has no diagnosis. And let me explain why I feel that this particular disease is a good fortune, and I don't say that sarcastically. All the healers agreed that they had never seen such a disease, and it had no name, and it had no cure. Something, some unknown, never seen before, shut down my entire central nervous system. It was my good fortune that I didn't have the luxury of believing in my doctors or the medical profession. I was forced to believe in God. And this is my story, and I'll give you the condensed version. August 26, 2002, 12 years ago, I got up in the morning, as I did every day, at 5:30 to attend the synagogue for prayers. During the services, I felt weak, and I felt pain in my left hand. Thinking that it was heart-related, I got into my car, and I drove myself to St. Francis Hospital. My heart was fine, but an x-ray showed a growth in my chest, which was later diagnosed as Hodgkin lymphoma. The weakness in my left side eventually spread over my entire body. And in less than 24 hours, I was totally paralyzed, to the point where I could not move a single limb or finger in my body. 1 month later, during the holiday of Sukkot, I was in Mount Sinai Hospital. Mount Sinai Hospital has an active synagogue. The members of the synagogue are the patients of the hospital and an incredible group of volunteers from the neighborhood that comes every Saturday to make sure that there's a minyan in the shul. The president of the synagogue is here today, an outstanding tzaddik and hero, Mr. Charles Milo. I believe Charles has been davening in that synagogue since his bar mitzvah. Is that true? No? On Simchas Torah, Charles physically brought me down to the synagogue for the hakafos and dancing. And he forcibly placed a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll in my hand. Miraculously, some fingers of my right hand, started moving for the first time as I was holding the Sefer Torah. Slowly, some function began to return, but I was left somewhat compromised in my entire body. As you can see today, I can stand, I can talk, I can walk short distances with a walker, and I, together with my wife, can enjoy our children and grandchildren. I won't enumerate what I can't do, because it's really insignificant compared to what I can. It was a busy year. I learned a lot that year. I received chemotherapy and radiation for Hodgkin lymphoma, and then later was treated for thyroid cancer. I survived because I was surrounded and supported by incredible people. My wife Shani, that's here today. My children, rabbis, synagogue, my brother, members, friends, and some new hero friends I met along the way. Bikur cholim saved my life. The healer needs healing is the topic. One of the most difficult transitions for me was going from someone who never accepted assistance from anyone to needing assistance for everything. Going from being in total control of everything and everybody to being totally powerless. I was the person whom everyone depended on for everything, and now I was dependent on everyone for everything. All in less than 24 hours time. In order to cope, I developed a number of personal creeds and theories that I have come to live by and live from on a daily basis. I would like to share these messages of creeds with you. They work for me, and I'm certain that they can be used to help others as well. The worst feeling is the feeling of not being in control. Things were happening to me, and I was powerless to stop them. My body was totally unresponsive. Doctors and nurses were now in control of my life. My schedule, my personal life, my business life continued on without me. And it felt horribly devastating. I knew that I needed to grab control. I needed to grab control of something. If not, I was going to become depressed, dispirited, and despondent. So I developed a number of creeds. Credo number 1. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do with it. Between 1942 and 1945, Viktor Frankl spent some time in 4 different Nazi concentration camps. His family died, he suffered horribly, and he spent years watching people around him suffer and die horribly. Out of this came an incredible book, Man's Search for Meaning, and a theory of psychotherapy called logotherapy. He talks about the following statement. He said, "We who lived in the concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in numbers, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken away from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do with it." I was crippled. I was unable to move. I couldn't control what was happening to me. I was the healer, always in charge and helping others, and now that was all gone. But I could control what to do with what I did have. It's like a card game. You can't control what cards you're dealt, but you can control how you play them. I could control how I felt about my condition. I could control my reactions to it. My mind worked. I could communicate. I was alive. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do with it. Viktor Frankl also said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. I have found that this theory really works, and I've used this idea many times and in many situations as I continue to counsel individuals and families in distress and trauma. I suggest that you too can impart this idea to the people that you interact with. Help them understand that what happened already occurred, and there's nothing that they can do about it, and you can't change that. Give them the feeling and hope that they are in control. They're in control of their future. Encourage them to take control of that. Help them refocus to concentrate on the future. Credo number 2. My essence and my soul remains unaffected and connected to God. At the worst point of my illness, I was immobilized and confined to a hospital bed. I was totally dependent on nurses and aides to assist me in every detail of my personal life. My feelings of helplessness were intensified by feeling of embarrassment and shame at needing such help. I knew that this aspect of my life was not going to change quickly,